Also, we have Leading in the Age of Lean AI, From Technology Adoption to Transformation. That's with Art Smalley. That's coming up in just a moment. Art, are you able to hear me?
Good.
I see thumbs up. Okay. Art, Matt, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Meisha. And hi, everybody. I'm Matt Savis with the Lean Enterprise Institute, and I'm pleased to introduce our next presenter, Art Smalley. Art is the president of Art of Lean, Inc., and one of the world's leading authorities on the Toyota production system in lean thinking. He was one of the first Americans to work for Toyota in Japan. He spent nearly a decade at Toyota in Japan, learning directly from the architects of their famous production system. After returning to the U.S., Art served as director of lean manufacturing at Donnelley Corporation and later at McKinsey & Company. And for over 20 years, Art has been a faculty member at the Lean Enterprise Institute. He's the author of multiple award-winning books, including Understanding A3 Thinking and Four Types of Problems. And Art now explores how artificial intelligence can enhance lean thinking and practice. With that, I'll turn it over to Art.
Okay, pleasure to be here with you today. I hope sound, audio, video, hope everything goes well. Going to talk about the topic of leading in the age of lean AI, and we explore what that is. I've got about 6 points I'll go through, a dozen slides or so. They link to some articles I've written too, so you might want to see those in other areas as well if you want more detail. And I'm trying to finish this in 20-25 minutes, so maybe we can do some Q&A, but my outline's on the right. And the first thing we're all trying to do here, obviously, is navigate this hype versus reality cycle we're in. We wake up every morning and you're caught in between the waves of, gee, are 40% of all jobs going away, what the godfather of AI thinks, or somebody like Gary Marcus is much more of a skeptic saying, yeah, these things hallucinate, they can't do X, Y, and Z. And by the way, they're probably going to produce a dystopian future. In the middle, you got Elon Musk and Sam Altman hyping it like crazy, thinking they're going to solve all of mankind's woes, and they just want you to give them a few more $1 billion. And it's okay to be confused by this. I was and am still in some areas, but I've spent a lot of time the last few years thinking about this, trying to make some sense. And the interesting thing is I actually have a background somewhat in AI, but it's in traditional AI, what I call big AI, torque, the big area of torque. So I worked at Toyota in an engine plant that was very highly automated, robots, vision system, machine learning. And for a time, something called expert systems was a wave, and it didn't take off the way people thought it would. But I do have some roots and some background, we call the big AI, what I call the big AI side, which is torque. Okay, things moving, touching, gripping, seeing, vision. I call that the torque side. What nobody saw coming, and it all started with a paper in 2017 called All You Need Is Attention about transformer architecture, was the rise of the large language models and what I call narrow AI, and the phenomenon that most people became aware of with around the time of Chat GPT-3. And suddenly this funny little chat box that was interesting and confusing at the same time. And the truth is there's lots of potential and there's lots of confusion on both sides of this. Let me try and give you my way of rectifying this problem. But one way of simple is I call torque versus tokens. Torque is big AI. That's a 40-year, 50-year path we're on. It's still going. Robots were fantastic 40 years ago. They did not take away every job in the factory. And I think kind of the same thing is going to happen with the large language models. They're going to be fantastic at certain cases and not so good at others. Even within, put the big aside, because this is what everybody's fascinated and thinking about and fascinated on. It's what I call the narrow side of AI, the large language models, the LLMs. There's about what I consider to be 5 levels of using these. And this is where it gets really confusing and where the hype and the anti-hype come into play. At the bottom, you've got the broadest application where most people are experiencing, and I started 2 years ago at Chat GPT, and it was interesting, but the answers were all over the map. That's what that target in the bottom right-hand corner is supposed to indicate. You got this incredible scatter. You got good, you got bad, you got crazy stuff. It misses the targets, it hallucinates. And The models get better, but they have this underlying problem in them that they're trained on basically the internet and all the data and documentation that they've put into them. They actually don't think. They approximate human thinking. They're kind of stochastic parrots. They predict next word. They can be given frameworks to approximate reasoning, but they're really not thinking. But they're fantastic at doing some things we didn't anticipate. And each model's gotten stronger and better. And the interesting thing, why the hype cycle goes in, if you learn to go beyond what's called the dialogue box with ChatGPT, if you go one level up with prompt engineering, which is giving it very special instructions or context engineering or Claude skills, some of this stuff you might have heard of, all of a sudden you start controlling the model a lot more. It starts behaving and you stop getting weird answers and things like that. I went through that phase. I took a 20-hour course, Vanderbilt University online, and learned a lot. And then I realized I needed to get to the next level, which was actually coding. I have a little bit of a software background, hobby, but not a ton. But I taught myself everything I could about APIs, application program interfaces, a little bit of Python, calling the models directly. And I found out there's a whole nother layer of ability you unlock. If you get away from the Chat GPT dialog box and you go directly to the model and code and interact with it, the level of quality goes up. And it goes up another step if you do something called, retrieval augmented generation and start building system tools and things like that. And if you get to this fifth level, which I don't like the term agentic, I think it misses the box. But if you actually fine tune and set up models to do very specific tasks step by step, you can get fantastic results. And that's where the hype comes from. But here's the reality check. 100% of us can do it at the bottom. Chat GPT dialog box. It took me 2 years to understand level 3. Okay, work up to that part-time. And it took me another 6 months before I built my first coded system with a custom interface, RAG, system tools and all that. It worked great, but it was tough to build. I don't even touch level 5. Maybe next year I'll have that figured out. But the problem is, even OpenAI and the stats will admit it, 100% people are down at box 1. Only 20% are doing prompt engineering. API level coding and models, that's less than 1% of the population. You go to level 4 and level 5, it's about 0.1% of the population or 0.01% that can do it at that level. And it's that's why I don't think it's going to happen very fast. We're going to get this broad scattering for a long time. People are going to figure out the use cases, and then we're going to start to dial it in. It's a jagged frontier. What they are good at, there's a phrase out there by a Stanford researcher, PhD guy, Balaji Srinivasan. I butchered his name, I apologize. But he says, look, humans are end-to-end thinkers. LLMs are middle to middle. And it took me a while to figure out what he means. By end to end, and I'll just use the PDCA framework, which I assume we're all familiar with this on this call. We can do the whole PDCA cycle, but we're really good at the front end of it as humans. Okay, what's the situation? What direction do I need to go? What purpose should I be thinking about? Who should I involve? What are potential hypotheses? LLMs are not good at that. They can help you in that thinking, but they're not strong at the beginning of the thinking cycle. You have to give them context. You have to give them inputs to get them in the right direction. Otherwise, they go off the rails. That's why they're so flaky, inherently great and inherently bad at the same time. On the same token, humans are really good at the end of the PDCA cycle. Once we've solved a problem, with the reflection, the adjusting, the next steps, the deployment, the recognition, we immediately think outwards and do a lot of things at that end of it very well. And that requires judgment. That's not something that a model automatically does, is trained to do, again, without being prompted or told to do that. There's a joke flying around, I think I seeded it somewhere, that the new PDCA cycle actually stands for prompt, do, check, and act. And I think it's kind of cute, but I don't fully believe that you can prompt everything in the models. You can get a lot of it. But what the models are fantastic about is the middle of problem solving, the middle of thinking, once you've given them direction. When you create a cognitive task that's small, bite-sized, and chunk, and it involves data and quantitative thinking, they excel because they are language models. Okay? They are not visual models yet, not fully visual anyway. They're not physics models. They're not real world models. They live in the world of tokens and text. They do very well at that, which is the middle of the perceptance cycle, middle of PDCA or middle of any problem solving step. Um, I took my book, Four Types of Problems, which you may or may not know, and it actually amazingly lines up well when you think about models and what they're good at and how we need to think about them in the future. Models are best at what I call type one troubleshooting because that is procedural knowledge. It's on the internet, it's on databases, it's what I call a known known. Okay, I didn't invent that framework, but those familiar with it, it's a known known. Known problem, known solution, models do well. That's why they're so good at coding for boilerplate tasks. Okay, they get 90% of it right, you fix the rest. At the next level of what I call type 2 problem solving, this is suddenly more diagnostic. We got to diagnose the problem. Ask, what is the problem? Well, break it down into smaller pieces maybe. Go and see, find out, get the facts, talk to people, measure a gap from standard. It's okay there. It'll hypothesize and structure your reasoning, but you still have to verify with evidence and facts. Models can't do that. Right? Third problem I talk about is target state or future state, envisioning, seeing things, projecting the way it can be. Each step we go down this, the models get a little bit weaker, to be honest with you. They cannot tell you what a good target state really is. They can only regurgitate text from their training database and project what an answer could be. And this is why the answers are so flaky. Sometimes they can project something great. Sometimes they project something that's not so good. You have to prompt it, guide it, code it to get very specific types of answers and insights. But it still takes human observation interpretation for level three, type three problems, target state, because that involves seeing the future, not just reading a database of past events. Fourth type of problem solving, if you played with the models, you'll know they're just not very good at open-ended innovation, true creative thinking. Japanese have created a model called Sakana. It does some scientific research step by step, but that's a special category of research and writing papers. It's actually not really doing breakthrough thinking. It can simulate and approximate that in tests, do some very impressive things. But when you just query it, say, give me 10 new business ideas, you're going to get very generic things. Give me 10 new ideas for this. You're going to get very generic things. It's weaker at innovation and validation. Again, unless you know how to prompt it, steer it, and get it in certain ways. But just remember, it's always, for the time being, it's going to be best. The way these things are built and designed, it is absolutely strongest at type 1, which is no simple thing. If you're in maintenance or even if you're a doctor, a lot of work is procedural, documented, and in the world of known knowns. And they're frankly very good at that and just getting better every day. If you take one thing out of this talk, it's this slide. We in the lean movement, we know something about this that the rest of the world doesn't. Okay, we should. It's this framework I call technology times behavior times management equals impact. If any of these go to zero, you get nothing. It doesn't matter how good the technology is. We've been through SAP, ERP waves, and things like that. They alone don't produce change. Models are in that category. You got to be careful. Technology or anything requires behavior, skills and behavior to do something with it. And that in turn needs to be wrapped around some kind of management system for daily, weekly, monthly cadences and improvement. Otherwise, it can't steer itself. It doesn't know where to go, what to do. Famous case, Claude Code, they put it in charge of running a vending machine, hypothetically. It ran itself broke in like 2 or 3 days. So these things can't naturally steer and manage the way we do as humans, because we're good at end to end, they're good at middle to middle. Look, Toyota's Andon is a perfect example of this. This is an old picture of an Andon. I hooked these up. This is hardwiring and PLC. I don't have the specs on the latest Toyota Andons, but they are hooked up to every sensor in the plant, processing information, getting vibration data, sound data, PLC, CNC data, measurement data. And all that still, okay, all that wonderful stuff still has to be analyzed. And then guess what? A human has to do something. There has to be a behavioral response when the andon cord is pulled for a person to take the data or go to the line and do anything with it. And if you don't have that behavior in your organization, good luck. Put all the AI in you won't get much. And on top of that, if you don't have some kind of good management plan, do, check, action cycle at every level, steering, setting next direction goals, Hoshin Connery, whatever you want to think, problem solving, daily management, it won't go well either. So the number one thing that the AI movement has to learn from the lean world is simply this: technology times behavior times management equals impact. If any of these are at zero, it doesn't add up. You won't nearly get the impact you think. That's the number one leadership message I want you to take. So if you're involved with AI in your company and any type of management or leadership position, here's four things I recommend, and then looks like I'll end this on time in 20 minutes. We'll have a little Q&A maybe or talk with Matt. Number one, think about redesigning workflows. You can pilot this, but don't just think about, I want to automate one task. The companies, there's a big report out, McKinsey, MIT, the companies apparently getting the most bang for the buck are actually taking entire workflows and redesigning them. And that makes sense from the lean world too. We know that. Don't cement the old cow path, right? That's not a super highway. If you're going to do something end to end with this stuff, do it end to end with AI in mind and think about system redesign and first principles. Don't just automate one or two tasks, okay? Think about what's value, what's the nature of the work, what's the human role in all of this, and how do we get performance gains. Second thing, really, really, really important. People learned this during the software area, especially with SAP, ERP implementation, and all kinds of other systems. You can't treat this as an IT project. This stuff has fantastic potential, huge upside in ways that we're just beginning to grasp. Matt's on the call with me here. Just one afternoon, he brainstormed. He took a job that none of us wanted to do, which was updating the lean lexicon from 2014. In 2 or 3 hours, he had that on his phone working as an app in his cell phone. We never would have thought of that or never could have thought of that before. But it makes us think now about how do you produce and think about knowledge and share it in the future. Because the old way of publishing and even blog sites and things like that are going to fundamentally change with AI. Don't think of this as an IT project. Think of it as AI leadership and areas where you need to employ it, and find areas that are need or are interesting to employ it in. I think you'll get much more traction. Third thing, and most importantly, while we do this, we need to think about the human capabilities. There's what I call the evil side of this, which is extractive, just trying to replace labor, and we've seen that game for a century. Look, I view this as an augmentation. If this is human replacement, then okay, I don't know. Thank God I'm retiring. I don't know where to go. I don't think it can replace what a lot of us do, thank God. I mean, there's certain things that probably will. But the most benefact this thing can have is an augmentation. And you need to think about this as giving people a skill and a technology they can use to do their jobs better, cheaper, faster than they do today. And then use that capability to grow. Let's grow. We don't subtract in lean. I know the word lean means less, but TPS is a growth formula as far as I'm concerned. Let's augment and grow and use this to develop capability, learning loops, experiment, reflect, and just go faster. And the fourth, if you're going to do this, and companies are screwing this up right or left, you need to have trust, adaptability, transparency in with it. The companies that have screwed up, these were top-down implementations, and the CEO just said, do this, 10% reduction, make it happen. And it was a top-down mandate, and it wasn't very well thought through. So that's it. That flavor doesn't work in lean. It doesn't work in IT implementation or tech. You need to be thoughtful, give people a reason to trust it. Make it do a task that's really somebody doesn't want to do, and make it valuable add for the person and the customer, and create cheerleaders. Don't create people who are taking pot shots at it if you want it to succeed. That's got to be thought through very carefully in your situation. So about 20 minutes, which was my goal for once in my life, I did this on time. I think the real transformation isn't the AI. That's going to come along. Big AI has been with us for 40, 50 years. The torque, it's growing, it's getting better. I understand driving is one of those automations that may happen and then displace lots of workers. But most of this I view as a really augmentation case. And I'm cautiously, naively, guardedly optimistic because I've spent 2 years building things with it, teaching myself how to do stuff. I helped John Shook translate a book in Japanese, Global 10. We hope to publish it here pretty soon. It was hard to read, hard to translate, and we knocked that out in a couple days. That would have taken us months. The lean world never would have seen it. The story of Hoshin Conry inside Toyota over a 30-year period by one of the primary drivers of it. There's lots of exciting stuff we can do this, and we just need to find those cases, put them to value, and share our successes. But remember, it's the technology and the behavior and the management that'll make this work. So with that, I'm just going to stop sharing. And
No,
Matt, turn
that
it
was
over
great,
to
Art.
you for even like if you want to dialogue a little bit about what I mean, if I'm not clear, or find questions.
Well, we have quite a bit of time for questions. So, for those watching, please use the Q&A. Actually, one just came in here. Art from
Oh, I'll put
Ricardo.
this presentation on site. I just made using AI. I made artsmalley.com, which I'd procrastinated on for years. I made it in 3 days. I put half of the there's articles on a lot of what I said today. I put on that site in LEI, and I'll put this up later
That's right.
tonight.
Yeah, and
So
LEI publishes a newsletter called the Lean AI Journal on LinkedIn. So subscribe to
yeah, so
that.
four
Art's
of
a
these
regular
articles are already
contributor.
on that. The fifth one's on my site. I'll put this one on it just in case anybody later tonight, if anybody's interested. But again, I procrastinated a website for 5 years and I made it in 3 days.
Astonishing. Um, well, uh, I'm surprised at how many people are still skeptical of this technology, Art, or cautious to use it.
I
For
was the
those
biggest
people,
skeptic on the planet.
what would you say is like what's a good place to how would you convince her? What's a good place for them to start?
Well, okay, you have to do a little research, a little learning, find something you want to do. For me, it was like, okay, can these things problem solve or not? That they can spit back general answers off a Reddit channel or Wikipedia or an old LEI article, pretty darn good. It's not bad. It's actually decent advice. But I was like curious, can these things coach? And I literally learned to prompt. I took the Vanderbilt course, 20-hour prompt course, engineering course, just because I wanted to learn how to prompt and say, how do I make this stupid thing problem solve the way I want it to? And you can do that if you want to like 8D problem solving, Six Sigma, A3 thinking, Toyota business practice. If you learn how to prompt, you can suddenly make that model behave a lot more in control guidelines. And that was just for me. That I was interested in problem solving and what the models could do. I would, if you're interested in this, like just pick a topic and say, okay, what do I have to do to make the model behave? And that's now you're back on that five staircase I talked about. You're going to have to learn something about controlling prompt and context or skills in Claude Code. If you want to get serious, like Matt and I have, you're going to have to start using something called an API key, access through the API. And suddenly the power goes up, this exponential curve. And that's where the hype comes from. You see that exponential, oh my God, I made it do that. Son of a gun. That's incredible. And you become a believer. I was the biggest skeptic. I thought it was all garbage and impossible. Okay.
I had four agents working autonomous as sort of a team the other day working on. So I was completely blown. I'm
Yeah.
guzzling the Kool-Aid on this stuff. It is extraordinary technology, but I totally agree. It's all about how you prompt it in the context you provide it. 100%.
But it's
Um,
jagged. It'll do some things really well and other things terrible. And that's where we're learning, right? Even in
yeah.
the token space. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, here's Ricardo's. This is an interesting question from Ricardo. I hope I understand it correctly. So, people are growing up now with artificial intelligence. So there's a generation of students coming out of university who have spent the last 4 years learning to use AI to get through school. Um, you know, how do we? What do you think the long-term consequences of that is going to be, or should that be a concern right now? I guess it's impossible to
Yeah.
predict.
It, anytime I build an app, it's to coach and critique structure thinking. It's a feedback mechanism. I don't think they should be the thinker. They should be the checker, the quality, the judoka, if you want to think about it for the human side, any app or way I use it, checking, automating and checking. But students are using it. Look, I helped the University of Michigan teach problem solving in their IOE 425 class. Okay, friend is the professor asked me to step in. I insisted, and we agreed, have the students use AI. So I gave them very specific prompts on how to problem solve and particularly just how to break down the problem. Because we wanted them to be really good at breaking down the problem and realize that your first attempt at problem definition is almost wrong. And you need to refine it and refine it. To me, this is like the internet. It's not going away. We figure out how to responsibly use it. Check your work, search your work. It can automate tasks. We cannot allow it to become the thinker. Okay, look, human, we're better end to end. We still got to be the thinker, driver, system architect, planner. I agree with the quote, it's better in the middle to middle. It can code like nobody's business. I can code now like I'm a 20-year pro, not exaggerating, like a 5-year pro. I couldn't do that 2 years ago. I can spin up websites and apps in languages I don't even know. It translates it. And then I debug it. I run a debugger program and all kinds of stuff on the sides. It solves it through PDCA.
Here's an interesting question from Jacqueline. You said top down isn't the way to go. In my experience, many younger colleagues are trying to develop something with AI within the operational business, but management simply doesn't understand the technology. How can we convince older management?
Dinosaurs. Science progresses one death at a time. I'm 60, all right. I got a hat on because I don't have much hair, but I'm full gray now. Dinosaurs aren't going to get it, I'm afraid. A lot of Toyota people my age are completely skeptics and don't believe in it. They just write it off as garbage. But Toyota has IE. When you go down to the 40-year-old level in Toyota, not the 50, 60-year-old level, you go down to the 40-year-old level, 30, 40-year-old, they get it. There are big AI games and bets being played trying to figure out where and how to use AI inside of Toyota. You can Google that and check it. I'll write an article about it in a couple of weeks, but you can fact check me on that. And I'm trying to connect and talk with some of them. National Laboratory. I work with Sandia National Laboratory. The younger kids in there are using it too. We're using vision systems and AI to problem solve and troubleshoot defects in a way we never have been able to in the past. And it's phenomenally successful. The
Well,
old
let's
people are
talk.
kind of in the way, I hate to say right now.
How has it transformed your process of coaching people through problem solving?
So that's what I'm trying to automate. To me, the biggest opportunity, so 20, I'm 60. 40 years ago, if you wanted a coach in Toyota production system problem solving, there just wasn't anybody around. Well, then John Shook, you get a few NUMMI guys and John Shook running around. Well, you couldn't get John Shook's time or attention. It was impossible with Jim Womack. Then there's 100 coaches, 100 sensei. Now we got thousands of good coaches and sensei and people that are good at it. I think the interesting play on this is AI can be the great democratizer. I built this coaching engine 24/7 on demand. Coach me the way I want, not the way you want to coach. Coach me the way I like to learn experientially on my terms and give me access to high quality knowledge. That's the coaching engine I've been building in the background. We're piloting with a few companies. And if we do that, I think AI can be the what I call the pocket coach. We've almost got a version on the phone. It's on a big desktop. That's complicated, but we've got a pocket coach version on the phone that I think people can whip out and say, all right, this is not a 100% answer, but coach, give me a coaching perspective on this. And you can get what I call the 90% answer, sometimes a 100% answer now. And I think this can really democratize access to high level coaching at almost no cost. That's what excites me into my career.
Totally agree. Um, I think we have time for one more question here from Sean. Any recommended sources for learning?
Oh, probably think article. I've gone through everything. YouTube, where you get the crazy hype cycle. Online courses, they're already outdated is the problem. Few good books. The best way is to learn by doing and search. The code can teach you, whether it's Claude, Gemini, or OpenAI. I want to learn this. Help me learn this. Go learn a new topic. So invent something you want to do. I want to create a website. I want to automate a task. I want to automate a journal. I want to figure out coaching problem solving. If you go to AI and said, teach me how to do this, it's phenomenal. Like, I'm not joking. I built an enterprise level app with Clerk, authorization, database, and RAG. I am not that smart, guys. It was the AI. It taught me how to do it.
Great. Thank you so much, Art. That
All
was awesome.
right. Thank you so much.